I'm Dennis Anderson along with Julie Zenner. Here's what's coming up at Almanac North.
The city of Duluth could soon put a hold on issuing new vacation rental licenses. The growing number of homes advertising as short-term rentals is fueling the debate.
The Duluth Superior Film Festival opens next week, showcasing a variety of films, many with a local connection.
And we'll have the business headlines and watch a story that was making news 25 years ago.
It's all coming up next on Almanac North. Hello and welcome to Almanac North. Thank you very much for watching. With June right around the corner, Julie, this is a terrific time of year.
It is beautiful around here. We wait all winter for it.
It's on the way. All right, let's get started.
All right. Thank you, Denny, and welcome, everyone. 2 years ago, the city of Duluth established regulations for emerging vacation home rental properties. The popularity of websites advertising local homes for short-term rent has grown since then, so the city is now taking another look at the issue. Concern from neighbors and from owners of licensed bed and breakfasts in the city could force a moratorium on additional vacation rentals. That would give the city more time to study the issue and to develop effective regulations. Well, joining us to talk about the vacation rental question is Joel Sipress, a city councilor representing Duluth's 2nd District. And Tim Allen is president of Historic Bed and Breakfast Inns of Duluth and owner of the A.G. Thompson House Bed and Breakfast. And welcome. Thanks for being here tonight.
It's a pleasure to be here.
Councilor, what started the current debate right now?
Well, over the last couple years, there's been a huge growth in this vacation rental market that's fueled by the rise of websites like VRBO and Airbnb, which allow people to directly market to people who want to stay in short-term vacation rentals. And just over the last month or so, we're seeing an increasing number of these applications. And they're growing increasingly controversial because under our current rules, with a relatively low bar for approval, they can be placed in residential neighborhoods. So we've had some interesting and important debates about specific proposals. And as Councilor Barb Russ and Charlotte Gard and I began to look at it, we realized that, in fact, the regulations we have in place now don't appear to be stringent enough or appropriate to the rapid spread of these kind of essentially small hotel properties in residential neighborhoods.
And maybe you could talk about what those current rules are if someone decides that they want to rent their house out to somebody short term.
Well, we need to make a distinction because there are two types of vacation rentals. There are what I would essentially call absentee vacation rentals, where somebody purchases a property and makes it a full-time vacation rental where it's not owner-occupied. Right now we have a process for reviewing and approving those in residential neighborhoods, but the bar is very low and the rules are relatively lax. So one thing we need to look at is perhaps tightening up the conditions under which somebody can essentially buy a property and run it as a full-time year-round small-scale hotel in a residential neighborhood. Then you have people who want to rent out their home a weekend or two a year, or maybe they have a spare bedroom that they rent out, but it's still their primary residence. Right now we have absolutely no regulation for that whatsoever, so there's no way to ensure that people who are doing that are paying the required sales tax, which they're required to do by state law. There's no method to make sure that they're undergoing proper health and safety inspections, fire inspections. So we need to both look at essentially the absentee vacation rentals that are popping up and also figure out an appropriate way to regulate the part-time lodging that people are doing out of their primary residence.
Tim, you operate the Thompson Bed and Breakfast, and you are the president of the Association of Bed and Breakfast Owners here in town. How do bed and breakfasts differ from these vacation properties that he's been talking about?
Well, there are 6 of us in the Historic Bed and Breakfast Inns of Duluth organization. We're all owner-occupied. We're required to live on residence. We are licensed. We all had to go through a rigorous licensing and inspection. All our homes had to, I mean, they're historic homes, they had to be brought up to code. And in these older homes, you know, electrical, plumbing, mechanical, that can be very expensive. We had to go do all that before they would even let us take a guest. And keep in mind, none of that is happening in an Airbnb. They're just people opening up. And that's one of our concerns is public safety.
And you're paying taxes.
And we are collecting, we're paying, first of all, commercial real estate taxes on our properties, which under Minnesota law, I don't know if a lot of these owners know this, but technically some of their property is going to become, if they're a bed and breakfast, will have to pay real estate taxes at a higher rate like we do. And also we have to collect lodging and sales tax. And none of the Airbnbs in this town are currently collecting it. And any of the unlicensed VRBOs are not collecting it. And as Duluthians, we should all really like the lodging tax because we're not paying it. People visiting Duluth are paying it. So every dollar that slips away by not being collected by these unlicensed properties is a dollar that all the rest of us are going to have to make up. And as he said, the fire inspections that aren't happening, I mean, the fire marshal has to come through our property regularly, make sure we have carbon monoxide detectors that are working, smoke detectors, that the wiring is up to code. And just from a public safety, this is an accident waiting to happen if we don't get a handle on this.
So bed and breakfasts are well regulated. Is the city then going to try to get all vacation homes as regulated as a B&B?
I think we really need to look at the proper kind of regulation for the different business models. I think there needs to be a single system of regulation that covers all the different business models. The details of that regulation needs to be worked out. That's why we're actually proposing a 12-month moratorium on new approvals, so we can actually look into the details of what's the appropriate way to regulate, say, a residence where a primary homeowner is renting out their house a couple weekends a year. What's the proper way to regulate an absentee vacation rental? There needs to be a comprehensive set of regulations. We need to take the time to figure out what that is. Cities all over the country are struggling with this right now, and there's been a whole wave of cities doing exactly what we're proposing to do in Duluth, which is to really study it and come up with a reasonable, equitable way of regulating all these different business models. And we'll be wanting to take a look at what other cities have done to see what kind of options we have here in Duluth.
Now, in addition to the regulations, also neighbors are concerned. You mentioned that you were sitting at a meeting and hearing neighbors raise some of the issues. The current flashpoint is a proposed vacation rental in the Congdon neighborhood. What are your constituents saying?
Well, one of the big issues is the impact that the absentee vacation rentals can have on neighborhoods if they spread. Unlike traditional long-term rentals where you have people who are living there who you can get to know, who occupy full-time, who really are your neighbors. With short-term vacation rentals, it really is like having a small hotel in your neighborhood, except there's no requirement that there be any kind of on-staff management or supervision or caretaking. So we really need to think about whether that's an appropriate model for residential neighborhoods at all.
Tim, how do B&Bs keep down neighborhood noise? I guess I haven't heard too many complaints.
No, you won't hear many complaints. We're all owner-occupied. We are there all the time. We greet the guests, we show them around, and all of us strictly cater to couples. There's no children allowed at ours. So it's naturally going to be quiet because it's people on a getaway. And we do try our hardest. We have off-street parking, and we keep a tight control. It's just a different kind of guest we get, first of all. I mean, it's not people wanting to have a kegger in our parking lot either. It's couples looking for a quiet getaway. And what we maintain is I know there's a lot of acronyms, VRBO, Airbnb. What the Airbnbs are doing, it is our belief that under the current Duluth UDC, they meet the criteria of an accessory bed and breakfast. They're just not being forced to follow any of the rules that the rest of us have been forced to comply with from day one. And to us, it's kind of creating an unlevel playing field. I talked about the real estate taxes that we pay and they don't, and the collecting of the tax. I mean, we actually have had guests ask on the phone, they know if they stay at Airbnb, they're not going to pay the sales tax. Can they somehow get around it with us? Well, no, you can't. And we're everything else being equal, if our room rates are the same, we're 11.3% higher just because we're collecting all those taxes. And it's just an unfair business practice that's kind of happening to us. And maybe we're the canaries in the coal mine. We're noticing this first. And we're the ones that first brought up the VRBO issue a couple years ago. We see the spread of this, and that's why when we saw this one, first thing I finally did after getting nowhere with the city was to call Joel here.
And I'd add that under state law, if you're advertising a room in your house or if you're advertising your house for a weekend, you already by state law are required to pay the sales tax and the tourism tax. We just have no way to make sure that people who are doing this, number one, even realize that they're required to do it, and then making sure and enforcing that it actually gets done. And as Tim pointed out, any time that someone who is required to pay sales tax doesn't, it increases the burden on the rest of us. And in the case of the tourism tax, people who are advertising their homes as vacation rentals are benefiting from all the investments that we made in tourism in Duluth. And a lot of that investment came through the tourism tax, and the tourism tax is based on the principle that those who are benefiting from our investments in tourism have an obligation to help cover the cost of those investments. And I think that when people understand that, I think most people say that's reasonable. So we want to do what's reasonable and establish a set of rules that make sense and have everybody carry their fair share of.
Joel, how about bartering? If somebody lives in, say, Phoenix, they want to spend a week in Duluth, and the Duluthian can go to there, and can you change houses for a week without calling that a B&B or a vacation rental?
My understanding is that if no money changes hands, it's not a commercial enterprise. Under state law, if you rent out your house short term, you're engaged in the lodging business. Just like if you own a hotel, just like if you own a B&B. So the real issue is this a commercial enterprise? Even if it's not a full-time business, even if it's a part-time business you're running on the side for some extra income to help you make your house payments, we still need to make sure that everybody is following the appropriate rules of being in business.
So now there have been a number of neighborhoods that are trying to stop these vacation rentals in their neighborhoods. You're talking about a moratorium. The ones that are already pending, could a hold be put on those too, or what's the status of those?
Those have to be evaluated under the current rules, because a moratorium would only apply to new applications for vacation rentals. So the ones that are coming before the council now will have to be evaluated under the current rules.
And do you think you have the votes right now?
I wouldn't want to speculate on something like that. We're going to be discussing it Monday night. There are concerns that have been raised by the neighbors that I think that the City Council has to really weigh and consider.
All right. Well, thank you for coming in and shedding some light on it. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Great.
Thank
Thank
you
you.
for telling us
Thank
your
you for
story.
having us.
Thank you.
Now, let's dig into our news file archive for a look at what was making news 25 years ago this week.
This bald eagle hasn't lived long enough to have his white head feathers, but the fact that he's alive at all is a miracle enough for these Grand Rapids residents. The bird was hurt by the jaws of a large trap that was nursed back to health by the Rapture Center.
2, 3.
Today, the bird nicknamed CK was released into the Mississippi River wilderness as a symbol of yet a more global liberation.
As this eagle is returned to freedom, it will be symbolic of Blandon's commitment to direct their considerable resources towards ensuring a quality environment for all of this eagle's kind and for his fellow travelers on the spaceship Earth.
For Grand Rapids residents, the river has been part of their ride through the universe, and today Blandon Paper Company officials opened a new parkway along the river. They hope the thoroughfare will remind residents of the freedom the river has brought them.
It will be a place where seniors might stop to watch the river, where kids will stop on a bike ride to make big plans.
While the people enjoy their new park, looking down on them will be an eagle, not only a proud national symbol, but as of today, a sign of a river heritage this community hopes to preserve. With photographer Sean Christie, John Gagnon, KDLH News.
Well, film lovers have a real treat in store next week as the Duluth Superior Film Festival opens for a 5-day run beginning Wednesday. Now, this year's festival will feature a regional theme, as a number of full-length features as well as all of the short films have a local connection. And you can't beat the price, since all events are free with donations encouraged. Joining us with more is Richard Hansen, the director and founder of the film festival. Richard, thank you very much for being here. Welcome. Now, this is being billed as a film festival, but there's some heavy emphasis on music and on art.
Yeah, we definitely have a lot more going on. There's panel discussions, there's question and answer periods. We will have some receptions, and there'll be some music performances as well.
For people who are not familiar with the film festival, talk about how it got started and what it looks like today.
Sure, this is our 6th year in Duluth, and we got started because Ricky McManus, who is the director of the Upper Minnesota Film Office, approached myself and a mutual friend of ours and said, we really want a film festival here in Duluth. And I was the director of a festival in Minneapolis at the time called Sound Unseen. And I came up to Duluth and I just absolutely fell in love with the city, and I met with everybody from Visit Duluth and the hotels, and even stepped in and talked to the mayor for a little bit, and everybody was really encouraging of trying to do something like that here.
Remind us of some of the films that have been shot either in Duluth, the Iron Range, or the region.
Well, that's one of the things that we're doing actually, is part of our programming is what we call the reunion screenings. We started this a couple of years ago with the film called Iron Will, which almost everybody knows all about. Was a very big production in the area, lots of big celebrities and stars that went along with that. It was a Disney production, and we brought in Mackenzie Aston, who is the star Iron Will himself, and we did the reunion screening, and it was a big hit because so many people who worked on the project and people who were extras and all the rest of those things, they all came out for the screening, and Mackenzie was just super charming, and he was, you know, just expansive and interesting and funny, and everybody loved him, and he fell in love with Duluth. He met up with a lot of the people who he connected with way back when. So we've decided that that's something that we're going to continue to do, and last year we were fortunate enough to get Patty Duke to come to the festival, who
You'll Like My Mother.
You'll Like My Mother, which was it was shot at the Glen Sheen Mansion back in 1972, and she was just a darling guest as well. Really, just a professional, I'll tell you. She was a trooper. She was just a trooper, and it was a very successful festival. And this year, we're going to do a 10-year anniversary screening of the film North Country. Most people are like, wow, 10 years since North Country.
I was going to ask, is it 10 years?
Yep, 2005.
Really?
And we're actually going to be doing the screening up on the range in Eveleth. Because
And are any of the actors coming?
Chris Mulkey actually was one of the actors. You might recognize him from, he was actually just in Whiplash, and he was in Captain Phillips, and he was in Twin Peaks. So he was also in North Country, and so he'll be visiting this year as well for that. And that'll be up at the Eveleth Auditorium in Eveleth. The reason that we chose that location was because the part of the film was shot there.
Absolutely, right in that auditorium.
Yep, absolutely.
Describe some of the types of films that people would be able to see during the festival.
Well, there's a full range of types and styles of films. Obviously, there's some short films that we have in the festival, and then feature-length films, which anything over 50, 60 minutes or so. And that's going to be independent films, films made by regional filmmakers, people who've shot things in Minneapolis or in the Twin Cities, also up on the range. We also have some international hits, and then some sort of big, sort of splashier Hollywood type of films. Opening night is going to be one of those types of things.
Where will these films be shown?
Well, opening night will be at Clyde Iron Works, which we're really happy to be there.
You've got a good sized screen there.
Absolutely, gigantic screen. Actually, probably the biggest screen in Duluth, and lots of great seating. And they've been a great partner for us for many years. And then most of the rest of the films will be shot or be screened at Zinema and Teatro Zaccone, and the Zeitgeist Arts Building is our sort of hospitality center. And then we'll do a little special event over at the Red Star, something really, really local there. So that's going to be pretty interesting.
And we do have a trailer from Heart of Wilderness,
Yes.
one of the films that will be shown. And the trailer is a little cryptic, so maybe you could set it up for us before we go to it and tell us a little bit about it.
Well, I don't want to reveal too much, and it's intended to be a bit cryptic, I suppose, but it's kind of a crime story, maybe a drug deal gone wrong, but the film or the protagonist is doing what's best for his family.
And was it shot here?
It was shot actually up on the range. They spent I don't know how many days up on the range, and it's really important to note that part of the reason why some of these films are being shot in Minnesota and some of these films are being shot up on the range is because of the incentive and rebate programs that are existing in Minnesota right now. They're really of critical nature.
Let's take a look.
Yep.
me, I did it for you. I did this for you, for Britt, for us.
Interesting. Now, can people see this film in a theater on a regular basis, or is this something that's
This will
only
be
here?
one opportunity right now. Many of these films will go through a festival run. They'll stop at a number of places around the country. They'll have their premiere somewhere and they'll work their way through the festival. Heart of Wilderness is an interesting case because we were really hoping that they would get a world premiere before the festival, because then they would be able to come and screen with us. And they were particularly interested because obviously we're the film festival in the region, and they're from this area and they shot up there and they really wanted to have this type of an environment.
Could a film festival, and we've had now, this is the 6th annual?
Yeah, correct.
Could that advance the art of filmmaking here in the Northland?
Oh, it absolutely does. That's a big reason why we're here in the first place. Was Ricky McManus, again, at the Upper Minnesota Film Office, has been promoting shooting films in the region for many, many years. Minnesota Film and TV Board is very excited to have film festivals because what they do is that they offer filmmakers an opportunity to come to our region and to look around. Ricky takes people on a tour, all of our visiting guests on a tour. They look around, they're informed about the great rebates that we have that are available. Yeah. And right now it's really, it's really a great time to be shooting films in the region, considering that Minnesota offers a 20 to 25% rebate program, and then if you shoot up on the range, there's an additional 20% incentive. So a filmmaker could come and make their film here for
North Hollywood.
Yes, absolutely.
Hollywood North.
Well, and it's coming right now. Particularly in the Arrowhead films, there's more films being shot in the Arrowhead than there are down in the Twin Cities, and it's really it's an important time to analyze the economic impact of all of these film productions, and the film festival has played a key role in trying to promote that.
So if people want to check out these films during the festival, is there a schedule online, or where do people find out how to do it? Yeah,
the first place you'd obviously look would be our website, which would be ds-ff.com, Duluth Superior filmfestival.com. Of course, you can Google Duluth Superior Film Festival, you come right to the top. And then, of course, Facebook and the Twitters and all the other social networks. And so those would be good places to look as well. And then, of course, we have advertisements and things on it. All
right.
And it's free, but you do encourage donations.
Absolutely. One of the ways that we are able to continue to provide such great programming is through donations from some of our supporters.
Richard Hansen, Duluth Superior Film Festival.
Yes.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. It was a pleasure. Thank you.
Here's a look at some of the business stories of the week from Business North. Low international ore prices have again impacted the region. Steel Dynamics has idled 2 iron-making operations in northeastern Minnesota, resulting in the layoff of 200 people. Affected are Mesabi Resources of Chisholm, an iron concentrate production facility jointly owned by Magnetation, and the Mesabi Nugget Pellet Plant in Hoyt Lakes, in which Kobe Steel is a partner. The company said its production costs currently exceed the price being paid for its iron products. Steel Dynamics said it's unlikely the pricing will change anytime soon, and the shutdown will continue for at least 24 months.
The maritime community on Wednesday broke ground on the $17 million Port of Duluth intermodal project. The long-awaited rebuild and expansion of docks C and D will put a vacant 28-acre dock back into maritime service after more than 2 decades. Completion of the project will enhance the Port Authority's intermodal capabilities and expand its capacity to handle more heavy lift and project cargo. Port Director Vanta Kota said the improvements will enhance the competitiveness of the entire region by increasing freight capacity via the Great Lakes St. Lawrence Seaway system.
Mayor Don Ness said Thursday the city of Duluth will step back from making a quick decision on replacing the main public library building. Although members of his administration have internally discussed the need for replacement for several years, members of the library board felt the process was moving too fast. Ness had hoped to make a decision this year, and he called the latest move a personal disappointment. Its expected public hearings will be held this fall on the library's future.
2 large credit unions, Members Cooperative and Lake State, confirmed their merger this week, creating one of the largest financial institutions in the region. Members Cooperative, with offices in Duluth, Cloquet, Aiken, and McGregor, has assets exceeding $400 million. Lake State has assets of nearly $200 million, with offices in Duluth, Moose Lake, Sandstone, Hinckley, and further south. MCCU Marketing Director Laura Wilkinson said the merger would expand the geographic reach for all members, providing access to more branches and allowing more products and services to be offered. For more on these and other stories, visit businessnorth.com.
Well, if you have a comment on the show, call now. Dial 218-788-2849 to reach our answering system, or send an email to almanacnorth@wdsc.org. And don't forget, the WDSC website is a great place to get program updates and find out what's happening at your public television station. Julie, hard to believe, June is already here. The lilacs are now out in full bloom.
And so are the June bugs.
June bugs, too.
I have seen the June bugs.
I prefer the lilacs. Great
they smell better.
Fragrance, absolutely. All right, for Julie and the crew at Almanac North, I'm Dennis Anderson. Have a great weekend. Good night, everybody, and be kind.